I'm Jodie Copley. I'm a Senior Lecturer and Clinical Education Program Director in Occupational Therapy at the University of Queensland. In addition to those roles, I also have the role of Clinical Educator in our university clinics here. So I have students with me on placement. Often I use a shared placement model with another organisation, so I have the students half-time with me. Supervision sessions with students are done in a range of different ways. In my experience, educators will sometimes do quite frequent informal sessions where you're talking with students regularly throughout the day or throughout the week, just after you see a client or just after a service is delivered. That sort of on-the-hop supervision that is really useful, I think, because you get to talk with the students, just straight away about what they've just done, and those are really useful. In addition to that, though, often having a structured supervision session, whether it's once a week or some kind of regular timing, where you can actually deal with broader issues. So it's not just about the last thing that they did or the last thing that happened, but broader issues like how they're meeting their learning goals and their objectives in the placement, things that they're unsure of, any questions they have, their learning progress in general. It's good to have time to talk about that and discuss that on a regular basis. So those sorts of sessions really, again, can be flexible. Different educators will choose to do them in different ways. But however you do it as an educator, I think it's important to give the students a clear expectation as to what it will be like. So if it's a session where you're going to sit down and we're just going to chat through things, and whatever comes up, we'll make some decisions on, or we'll talk about that more, then the student needs to know that, so they can sort of come with that in mind. If it's going to be more structured, and you need it to be more structured because they need to show you their progress on a intervention plan or a report or anything like that, or give you feedback on communication they've had with a client or another service provider or another professional in your organisation, once again, they need to know that as well, because preparation is important to students so they can put their best foot forward and actually feel like they're prepared for whatever might come up during that time with you. Often students see those structured supervision sessions as extremely valuable. That's their golden time with the therapist, and if you've got a busy caseload, they want to make the most of that, which means that thinking beforehand about what they want to clarify or having prepared things that they need to show you will really make that session much more effective and efficient, and set them off on the pathway to be maybe a little bit more independent for the next few days or week or whatever it might be, which in turn, of course, makes your job as an educator much easier. So I will often say to students, you come with an agenda. That doesn't always happen right from the beginning because they don't know what the agenda should be. So sometimes I'll set the agenda to begin with and then gradually move them towards, well, you need to organise me. You need to be clear about what it is you need to know, because after all, as we progress through the placement, it's your caseload, it's your responsibility. So them having a structured agenda to work through really demonstrates that they're taking their professional responsibilities seriously, because they're thinking about all of the surrounding issues that they need to be ready for, that they need to be clear on, so that they're then providing a good service. And the way that looks often is that, and I say this to students explicitly, for the first part of the placement, I might be talking more than you in our supervision sessions. As we progress to the middle and ongoingly, you'll be talking more than me. And as we get towards the end, we'll sit down to talk and I'll say, what do you have for me? So hopefully, often it will progress that way, but it is important to be explicit about it so they know what those expectations are and they're not surprised. Sometimes I think in the busyness of what we're doing, we sort of think that there are certain things that are implicit within our organisation, within the culture of our service, that we think they're going to pick up on early on, but they won't pick up on it until we're very explicit about it needs to be A, B and C. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, that report doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be to this point because we're going to workshop it together so that they know what the nature of that interaction will be when they sit down with you, and they can feel relaxed and confident about what they're bringing to the table. Asking them what questions they have is also a good component of structuring your supervision session. I think that it's important not to make that too open though, because I think as educators we need to remember that particularly early in the placement, students don't always know what questions to ask. So having the structure of a bit of information giving and then a question, a bit more information giving and then a question early on in the placement helps them understand those expectations more and helps raise the questions for them, because you're framing, kind of leading them to what questions they might have. And then they get into the swing of it and all the questions start flowing.